Greetings. Welcome back, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, boys and gals. We're here for another fantastic episode of the Death, Tax, and Sports Podcast. It looks like we have a little triumvirate, a little trifecta. I guess Gary will come when he wakes up from his nap, but we are here with the queen of DTS herself, Marissa Tigney, and Marisa Tigney, and we got Ben Holloway, and hopefully, Ben, you don't have too much of a headache after that lovely game yesterday. But how are you guys doing?
It's par for the course, and no surprise.
Yeah, Tigney, it comes to find out that Jerry Jones went and barged into the locker room to yell at the special teams coach. I heard on ESPN. I'm not sure if you heard of that. Yeah, allegedly that happened, and I'm like, where were you when you guys got blown out and got your butt spanked against the Lions? But you're going to go towards the.
He's a delusional old man.
Listen, he has to have levels of who he's going to have his rage out. I mean, it was 105.3 here in Dallas, Texas, where he, took out his venom. And then all of a sudden, now he's on the show talking about the unfortunate injury that ends the season for Overshown. So,
yeah, there's got to be something.
I do feel for him. He seems like a good dude, and it's bad. It
was emotional for Micah Parsons to talk about it after the game.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
recovery to Mr. Devarian Overshown.
MCL, ACL, PCL. That's a trifecta tear that you do not want to deal with. At least takes you out close to next season.
I mean, he had an ACL injury the year before too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
that's tough.
Left knee. Yeah, it's tough. Sucks. Yeah, and there's a good chance he's out. There's a good chance he's out all of next year.
Yeah,
he's so young, and you invested it. I mean, he's not. You haven't invested in him money-wise necessarily, but you invested a good draft pick in him. And when he's been healthy, he's played really well. There's no need for him to play next year. You want him to give him a second contract.
Yeah.
Make sure he's healthy enough so you can give him that second contract.
Yeah.
Exactly. But we will get to all that fun talk. But we got a little bit of college football. We got some Heisman discussion. We got, the expanded 12-team playoff, which I'm sure someone's always going to find something to complain about because no one's ever going to be happy. People are like, 16-team. Like, no one's ever going to be happy. We got a little bit of NFL, Week 14. There was some very, very interesting games. I definitely want to touch on these Philadelphia Eagles, what's going on with the 9-game winning streak, and it feels like the roof just seems to be falling. And then Gary's word of Fugazi, Kansas City, 12-1, and Ben, at some point, I'd like for you to find out that point differential now because you are a stat guy and you do.
It's easy. It's 55 plus 1.
Okay,
they only won by 1.
Okay, and then what's the line?
Or was it 19? Was it 19-17? So they won by 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the point differential overall to the season comparing
57.
The lines. Yeah, so
57.
But okay, Tigney, let's get to some college football here because we have teams seeded 8 through 12, and I do got to give a shout out to my wife's alma mater, Arizona State, for making it because they were. Let me tell you, I went to a couple games last year, and they were absolute trash. So for them to make it and not just win the Big 12, but to win it rather convincingly, got to give a shout out to ASU living here. But let's see the teams that we have for 8 through 12 here. Looks like we got SMU at 11. We got 10 Indiana. We got 12 Clemson, and then we got the Ohio State Buckeyes. I can't really say that too loud with a Michigan fan here after 4 times in a row.
Oh my God, what am I wearing?
Listen, I can't even complain. Because
maybe it's for the basketball game tonight because, the first time ever ranked Michigan this season since 2022 is playing the John Calipari Arkansas Razorbacks today for the Jimmy B Classic. Or could it be, that you were on this show and just having that 7-5 feeling, especially that 7th win of the season? I don't know.
Yeah, it's all good. So let's throw the question here, and then we'll throw it to you, Ben, because I know you got some thought on this. I can read your mind very well. So from which team seeded 8 through 12, right, has the best chance to make a run? So we got a few games, make the semifinals or the finals. I'll throw it to you, Tigney, and then Ben, feel free to take it away and do what you do best.
When you look at these 8 to 12 teams, you have to be really intrigued by the matchup of 8 and 9 with Ohio State and Tennessee. That is going to be an offensive juggernaut. Both of these teams are not slouches on defense, but both of these teams have really good quarterbacks. And so it's going to come down to which of these offensive teams is going to last all 4 quarters of this first round to go and meet Oregon. And I know Ohio State is doing everything they can to chomp at the bit to get that filthy taste of what happened at the end of their season, for them not getting the opportunity to go to the Big Ten championship and to kind of redeem themselves, if you will, against a very, very good, tough-minded Tennessee team. They get past them. They want to relive that smoke against the Oregon Ducks and get to that next game. So that out of all of those teams, I'm just stuck on the matchup, not just a particular team, because Indiana's going to have a tough time against Notre Dame. SMU, they may make it competitive. I mean, we saw them with the comeback in the fourth quarter. I mean, I literally walked out of the room and then all of a sudden it's a tied game against Clemson. And that heartbreak, the walk-off that Clemson had at 54 yards. And then you got Clemson versus Texas. So, but I'm just looking forward to this, gentlemen, next weekend when you see the first round of these games kicking off and seeing how somewhat that this 12-team playoff could be beneficial, could bring ratings, could pad the bottom line. We'll see.
All good points. Agreed. Ben?
Yeah, I just wrote down Ohio State. I think that they can win that first game, and Oregon, I think that the Ducks are great. They're undefeated, but it feels like there's been much more dominant undefeated teams in the past. They are the last man standing as far as don't have a loss yet, but I just kind of feel like that they're not as dominant as we've seen last few years or even 10 years, some of the undefeated teams. I think they're really, really good. I just have a feeling that they are going to lose before the championship game. And why not to Ohio State, who, like you said, Marisa wanted a chance to beat him, to play him in the Big Ten championship game, and clearly shit the bed against Michigan. All credit to Michigan pulling off that upset. But I think that I just don't think that Oregon is as good as their record is. I think they're great, and Gabriel deserved his Heisman Trophy candidacy finalist. But I just have a feeling they aren't going to finish the season undefeated, and I don't think they're going to make it all the way either. So why not have it be a hungry and motivated team trying to make up for what happened in their last game? So for me, I wrote down Ohio State as the best chance to win the 2 games, which is what we're talking about. As far as for an 8 to 12 team to go on a run, you got to win 2 games.
Who do you think, Ben? I'm gonna throw this out to you because you're making a brilliant point. Who do you think Oregon does not want to face out of Ohio State or Tennessee?
I think Ohio State, because I think that there's something. I mean, and let's be honest, we're gonna find out kind of how much the players want to keep Ryan Day. Because to me, if you want to keep Ryan Day, you have to win 2 games. You have to. Mm-hmm. That would include you have to. And I would say you'd probably have to win 3. But at minimum, he's got to win 2 games. And if he can say, listen, let's say they win the first 2, they lose in the semifinals in like an overtime game, that might be enough to keep his job. But short of that, he ain't keeping his job. And I know that's a separate discussion, but those players love him and want to keep him. They have to pull the upset and beat Oregon. There's no other way about it.
Yeah, Ben, I've been, when last year when Michigan beat Ohio, when that team up north beat Ohio State last year.
You can say their name out loud and proud.
And then when it happened again, and again, see, the thing is that like Harbaugh, losing a Harbaugh with that team was a juggernaut. Okay.
Yeah,
that team was better, right? Like, I am not going to be mad if a team is just better. Okay. They were better. Blake Corum, all those guys were just better. So like, I can't, and then our quarterback last year just didn't have the type of upside that we needed. This year spent $20 million on this roster and couldn't get it done to a rather underwhelming Michigan team. Now, next year with that freshman coming in, oh boy, we'll see how that goes. but that's besides the point. Just to the point, Ben, they need to win the national title this year, or I support him getting fired. And, I've been a fan of the team for 20 plus years, but you can't lose to Michigan 4 years in a row, and then you can't lose to this team. Now, Tigney, that's not a knock on Michigan.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, you're a 19.5 favorite. I was prepared for this to be a one-sided, and I could not believe. And it's so funny, Jeff, that you mentioned this, because when I watched that Northwestern game when they won 52-6, and I was like, God, where was this defense at all season long? Maybe they'll put up some kind of, give it all they got in the first half. And then, Will Howard and this, incredible offense and the running game of Ohio State will take off in the second half. That's what my mind was. And it was just surprising how much the defense just kept staying in this game. And I was just so amazed. Incredible. I was like, God, Wink Martindale, where was this at all season long? It was just in awe.
Ryan Day could turn out to be the modern day Jim Tressel, who was amazing as a coach, but could not beat Michigan. And Ryan Day is clearly, I mean, his record is like 65-9. It's ridiculous. It's insane. But
Jeff, to you, did you beat
Michigan?
Did you feel that Ryan Day played timid?
Yeah, from the very beginning.
It was odd. It was just very odd.
There was just something to me where you could feel that they were playing with a lack of like, okay, we're the better team. I just think that Michigan got in their head. And this is what the thing is about rivalry games. We see this all the time. Like, it doesn't matter who has a highly touted play. Like, it does not matter. Rivalry games in sports across the sports sphere, it does not matter. Records don't matter. And there was a couple guys, I was at a going away party the night before, and everybody's like, oh, Michigan's going to get blown. I was like, don't say that. I'm like, it does. Like, I'm not surprised Michigan did it. Michigan's in the head. But to get back to the question, because we could talk about this one forever. Tigney, I know you're very happy about Michigan. I will say congratulations. I'm not mad that the coach is a brother there. I said it. That's the only time I'm going to say that.
I'm still stunned. I just think with me, yes, it's a great win and everything of that. And don't get me wrong, as a Michigan fan, but I was just surprised to see you are 47-1 against, you are literally with other teams, except that one loss to Oregon, and you're 1-4 against Michigan. And literally, like you said, $20 million in NIL money to just beat the brakes. And I mean, I was just stunned. Yeah. Y'all on paper were legitimately in every category the better team.
And they could still make a run, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But just to answer the question though, I think Clemson has the potential to make a deep run. I do. Them winning that ACC game, the way that they did in the last second field goal. They still have a little bit of pedigree with whose homeboy's name I can't remember because I'm just drawing a complete blank, but you know who it is. Dabo Swinney. But we'll see. That Arizona, if they play Arizona State, I think Texas is going to win, and I think Texas is going to obliterate Arizona State. Arizona State's been a great run, but
Texas better figure out the strength of their quarterback. That's what I have small question marks about. I know that they got, once he gets another year of development under his belt, I believe Arch Manning is just going to be that stud on that team. But Quinn Ewers. Please do not, with all due respect, try to make another year eligibility. Your chapter in Texas is done. It is Arch Manning season next season.
I kind of feel like Manning might be better right now.
I 100% agree. But that isn't,
it would be, if they were ever going to make that switch, it would have been when he filled in and played well when Quinn Ewers was out.
Correct.
But I kind of think if you're looking at like who's the more talented quarterback, pretty sure it's the backup.
Yep.
I mean, Quinn Ewers had to leave Ohio State to come to Texas. So, I mean, we'll see. But let's go. But Ben, let's get to this next one here, man. Did they get it wrong? Leaving Miami and Alabama out, was it the correct decision or did they get it wrong? I'm really interested in this one because you and I kind of had some thoughts about this in the chat. Kind of glad that Alabama's out of it because I'm tired of seeing their face. But talk to me, man.
Yeah, so I think that now are the people making these decisions on these committees, let's be honest, they are not 20 and 30 years old, right? They're older. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not aware of what's being said on social media and TV and radio and this and that. I cannot. I don't. It's not the only reason Alabama is not in, but they heard that people were saying, "Oh, Bama's in because they're SEC. They have 3 losses. They freaking got embarrassed by Oklahoma, who isn't a good team. They scored 3 points against Oklahoma. Bad loss against Vanderbilt. You have them ranked in there because they're Alabama. You want as much SEC schools as possible, so that's why they're in there." And that was the conversation for weeks, that was the reason that they were there. And I think, frankly, it's not the only reason they're not in, but it is one of the reasons they're not in my mind, because it's impossible for them not to know that these conversations were happening. And frankly, like, if you lose 24-3 to a really bad Oklahoma team, you only got yourselves to blame. You had that bad loss against Vanderbilt, but arguably Oklahoma loss is worse because, first of all, let's be honest, the Big 12 has a reputation. They don't play defense. Like, how does a Big 12 team allow an SEC, really, really good SEC team, you only score 3 points? Like, that is a horrible loss for a top 25 team to lose that bad to a team that was not good at all, and to only score 3 points. And the fact that that came late in the season, that wasn't in September. That was towards the end of the season. So that's kind of fresh in your brain, fresh in your memory. Combine that with the bad loss to Vanderbilt, it's like, yeah, they had some really good wins, but eye test, sure, they're probably one of the best 12 teams. We can't only go by eye test, and we can't only go by who you beat. Who did you lose to? And like I said, if they had won that game at Oklahoma, this conversation would not be happening. And they got annihilated. They scored 3 points against a team that I think finished 500. And again, the Big 12 has a reputation for years. They don't play defense. You can score 40 points easily. So to me, could they have been in? Sure. Would I have had a huge problem if they were? No. But I think that I'm completely fine with them not being in it, because it's not only who did you beat. And frankly, I'm good with it. And they're always in it, right? Let someone else in it, you know?
And Ben, you make some very good points. And Tigney, you know, like I watched probably about like maybe 8 or 9 games of Alabama this year pretty religiously, because I was really interested to see how the Kevin DeBoer and the team that he was inheriting, still a very talented team, quarterback coming back. There was a lot of expectations after they beat Georgia when they gave up a second half lead, come back and win. I was really interested to see. But I feel like this was not a very convincing 9-3 Alabama team. And I felt like even the fact that they even got the 12th spot before championship weekend was just primarily because of their name. Like, this was not a very convincing team to me overall through the course of the season.
I think the whole process of it, Ben made excellent points on this. The thing I want to touch on is, if they would have put Alabama in the top 12, gentlemen, this would have been more than just ruffling the feathers of those that deserved the spot more than they did. This would have disrupted them, because one, they're a 3-loss team that didn't win their conference. Clemson won their conference. They're a 3-loss team. They won their championship respectfully. This would have been all about the bottom line. This would have been about the cash cow. This would have been about ratings. This would have been about what flashy name draws more viewership. Okay, so it isn't Indiana, it isn't SMU, and respected them. They earned their way to be in there. But if they were going to go and throw Alabama in there, that would have disrupted the whole flow and the process of why in the world there is a 12-team playoff. You are looking at 12 teams that you believe, according to their schedule. I don't know why we bring up strength of schedule, because if we're bringing up strength of schedule, Indiana did not have a strong schedule, because how many ranked teams did they play? 1. And the one loss that they had was who? Ohio State. And Ohio State was what? A ranked team. Okay. So you look at the rest of their schedule, none of the teams, including my guys, were ranked. So pretty much they blew through the competition and they struggled against a really, really good Ohio State team during that week that they played them. So I wholeheartedly agree. I'm glad, not glad, but because Bama, for some reason, they believe that Bama and Michigan should be in the bowl together. I don't understand that one. That's a whole conversation. Yeah, that's a whole different conversation. But in Miami, you know, the unfortunate losses that they had against Georgia Tech and Syracuse, that game was just so ridiculously just off. I didn't understand it when they lost to them. And pretty much that helped Clemson going into the tail end of the season. So what I would have liked to see, then I'll make this last point, is if you got two of the teams that are on the outside looking in, why can't they play each other in a bowl? I hear and I see so much chatter from Bama fans on why are we in the ReliaQuest Bowl that used to be called the Outback Bowl, renamed, branding, all of that. And then you draw a 7-5 Michigan team, which I don't understand that again on December 31st. So if you got two teams on the outside looking in, why can't they play each other?
Yeah. I mean, it's facts. You know, but I will say, for the most part, they got the 12th team right.
I think so. I think they did too.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, like, there's not as much chatter. I wanted to see. I was looking at the Twitter sphere and to see what the reaction was going to be, to see who got snubbed. And I think that this year the chatter wasn't as loud because one, there's 12 teams, and I'm glad that they got it right.
I will say this really quick.
Yeah.
I think if Clemson had dominated that game that whole time and SMU never made a comeback, I think Bama's in and SMU's out, and I would have been completely fine with that. You lose your conference championship game by like 20 points, that you might lose a spot based upon that. But I think them
I don't agree with that.
That comeback, I think that really mattered.
I don't agree with that because now you're opening up a can of worms saying, you know what? Yes, SMU, you did lose your conference championship game. And then now we're going to slide in a 3-loss team. Why? Because they're Alabama.
Yeah, I get it. I got you.
And I think that's very funny too. You know how on X, when you are in the college football playoff, you know how you do the hashtag and whatever their thing is, like hashtag Go Blue or hashtag Go Dogs or whatever, and you see their little icon next to it. Type Alabama's up because theirs pops up and they're not in the top 12.
Wow, interesting.
That's how much they were confident that this team was going to be in there. Just throwing it out there.
Well, don't lose 3 games next time. Don't lose to Vanderbilt, which ended up actually not being a bad loss when you're looking at those type of season Vanderbilt had.
Quarters out of the 4 quarters, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Vandy was, they had
Vandy led in the first quarter, second quarter, and fourth quarter.
Yeah, we're good. Now, this next question should say his name for me, Ben.
Ashton Gianti.
There we go, because you know how great I am at saying names. What he said, there we go. Win the Heisman Trophy. The simple answer is yes, but will he win it? No. We know that part of this Heisman Trophy talk has been very driven by the media and has been driven by a lot of fandom. What Ashton has done has been an absolutely amazing job as a running back. Watching him in the Mountain West Championship game, he had 120, 130 yards on 14 carries in the first half alone. I mean, this man is a complete difference maker, and he's the reason why. The thing with Boise State and Arizona State that they both have is that they have both 2 phenomenal running backs, and that's what makes them. That's the engine that makes them go. They would be very average teams without Cam Scatterboo, who should have also been a Heisman Trophy finalist, but that's besides the point. And him. I think he should win, but I feel like Travis Hunter's going to win. Travis Hunter, great season, but I think it's just the draw of playing for Colorado and Coach Prime and playing on both sides of the ball, which is what is driving the fandom. He's still deserving, but I just think Genty is a little bit more deserving because of the type of true impact that he has. And for a very underwhelming team, and the fact that they're the 3rd seed in the college football playoff, I think winning also still matters. And, Colorado still had some ugly losses to Kansas State, to Kansas. So I don't know, but I'm just a man with an opinion.
Listen, and it's a valid opinion, as much as you had the great Barry Sanders talk about how incredible Ashton Genty is. He moved up to number 4 passing. Oh my God, I went blank on his name. He went to USC. It'll come to me. But I saw him play in
Marcus Allen.
Thank you, Marcus Allen. And you see him play in the Mountain West Championship and how he was just running all over the place. And literally, I look at Boise State and I go, what other weapons do they have besides Ashton Genty? You have to be a complete team, especially in the position where you are. You having that first round bye, and whoever you end up playing in the next round, you got to be ready. You got to be prepared for those. Not taking anything away from Ashton Genty, but we have not had a two-way player win the Heisman Trophy since who?
Charles Woodson.
There it is, in 1997. We haven't had that. We haven't seen that kind of talent and that person of that kind of caliber. Travis Hunter, 1,152 receiving yards and 4 interceptions alone this season. That is incredible on both sides of the ball. Absolutely. I think it's a 2-person race. No offense to Dylan Gabriel and to Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward had the pretty much the lead until that last game of the season where they lost it. And it was just a ridiculous way how everything ended. And I think the Heisman Trophy slipped right out of his hands in that game. Because let's be honest, gentlemen, the Heisman Trophy, basically they say an overall snapshot of your season, but it's literally only the last 2 to 3 games, if that, of the season. They don't look over the whole body of work. They'll pull the numbers up and showcase to everybody, these are the 4 or 5 people that are coming to New York, and this is the stats that they have, and they'll do a whole hour on the show and all of that stuff. But let's be abundantly clear. The journalists, the media, and those that do have a vote, the ones that played football are the ones that will probably, most of the time, will look at their overall body of work and see what they contribute to and see what they have done. But journalists and media and those sort of things, do they honestly look at the whole entire season? Do they really? I have questions about that when it comes to the voting process. But I think that it's a 2-person race. It gets down to the incredible running back talents of Ashton Genty and Travis Hunter.
I agree with all the points. I'm not disappointed with Travis Hunter. I'm not disappointed. I wouldn't be disappointed with either one of them, honestly. I think Travis Hunter is deserved. I'm not going to complain at all. I agree with all those points. It's a win-win.
Yeah, for me, I think, and I hope it's going to be Ashton Genty, and he averaged almost 200 yards a game rushing.
That's insane.
Literally.
That's insane.
192 yards per game rushing. That's insane. And I think 7.3 yards per carry. And 29 touchdowns. 13 games, 29 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, I heard people say, well, who did they play? Strength of schedule. Okay, here's my counter argument. Name somebody else on Boise State that's going to be forget the NFL, that's even going to be in the USFL. Mm-hmm. Name another player on Boise State that's going to continue to play professional football somewhere.
Well, wait.
So every week, he knows he's going to get all the attention every week, every defensive coordinator, everybody. We got to stop him. We got to stop him. We got to stop him. And there's no other threat really on that offense. So you don't have to be concerned about, anybody. And they all know it, and they all can't do it. Almost 200 yards a game in Division I. That's insane.
That part.
And 29 rushing touchdowns. That's more than 2 a game, people.
Mm-hmm.
Times 13 is 26.
Yeah.
You watched the Mountain West Championship game. They won 21-7. They were up 21-0 at halftime. He did most of his damage in the first half.
Pretty much.
They crowded the box, and he didn't get as much of explosive, but whenever the quarterback tried to pass the ball, like they went 3 and out every single time. The only way they can move the ball is with him. 7 yards.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to be interesting to see, gentlemen. If it ends up being Penn State that they play, it's going to be interesting to see how much they're going to jam him up. I can see possibly with it, if it's SMU, if it ends up being SMU and Boise State, okay, you can have some kind of entertaining game. If it is Penn State that is going to be their opponent, this could get ugly, and it could favor Penn State.
Yeah, but
just throwing that out there.
The thing is, who the heck did Penn State beat? They don't beat anybody. James Franklin loses to top 5 teams all the time.
I mean,
frankly, Boise State, like, think about it. Clearly, that would be their best win to that point.
Penn State's a very formidable team, though. I mean, they still win 11-2. I mean, in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
No, I'm saying that, like, that'll be a good for me personally. I think if I'm Boise State, even though SMU might be quote unquote easier, no, I want the big boys. No,
you do want them.
Win that game. I want the big boys. If we're gonna make a run, I want to go through the big boys. So I want to see them play Penn State.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts, Signe, before we move forward?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so let's so I just want to keep this thing moving before I get a jet. But so the next question is, which top 4 seed is most likely going to lose their first game? And when I'm looking at the brackets, right, it's either going to be Arizona State or it's going to be Georgia. And Georgia, depending on their quarterback situation and depending on the type of start that they have, because they have been horrific in the first half for whatever reason. The 8 overtime game, which was just absolutely ridiculous, and struggling the way that they do against Texas. Like, this is not an overwhelmingly like juggernaut of a team. But then I also look at Arizona State if they play Texas, because Texas seems to be able to beat everybody but Georgia. And it depends on the single weight circumstances with their receiver who was out in that game against in the Big 12 championship. So I'm looking at one of those 2 teams, honestly. But for me, I'm probably going to go Georgia if they play Notre Dame. If they play Indiana, I think it's going to be a blowout. But I think Notre Dame has enough quality with this version of a Georgia team to make this game interesting, to make it close, and for them to be able to pull off an upset. Because I think that Notre Dame has minus that Northern Illinois game, I think they rebounded rather quickly.
They did.
I have a lot of concerns about this Georgia team and just the way that they played all season long, and just the way that they just can't score, and the litany of turnovers that Carson Beck has had when he has played. I'm not feeling it.
Sorry, I know you got to go, so I just wanted to get this in before you go. Talk about missing Brock Bowers. Carson Beck doesn't look the same without them boys, huh?
And it's crazy, Tickney. It's like they had Carson Beck as a top draft pick going into this year. Like he was one of the top ones.
Yep.
And then Lod McConkey. I mean, guys, we're seeing the NIL era at its finest, right?
We are.
These big schools are no longer being able to get the top. It makes it.
Honestly, I love it. It's the wild, wild west. I love it. And because the NCAA has controlled things for so long and so many decades and years.
And slowly but surely, the power of them is getting pulled, and they hate it. These old men hate it. They hate that the power is being taken away from them.
I love it.
I love it.
There's no regulations. You got 20 million here. You got 20 here. You go.
The holes in that big old steel curtain is starting to just rust and starting to come down a little by little. I absolutely love it, but I agree with you, Jeff, on Georgia. We're just going to see. This is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is Gunnar Stockton's first start. It happens to be in the postseason. It could be where he has his Cardale Jones moment. Could be. The thing is with Georgia is they're going to have to rely on their run game. They're going to have to rely on their run game, and their defense is going to have to play lights out for them to get past whoever they're going to end up playing. Both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But, guys, I would love to stay on longer, but I do have another shindig that I do have to get to. 'Tis the season.
Tis the season.
Let you guys finish it off strong. Yeah. Appreciate you guys. And I'll see you guys, I think, next week. But
all right, cheers. Sounds good. Tickney, you good to roll?
I'm rolling.
Right. Let's do it. All right. So I didn't quite answer that question, so I will. I got to admit the Georgia injuries, and specifically quarterback, you guys made compelling cases, but I just think that Texas, I mean, Jeff said it. They beat everyone besides Georgia. And Arizona State probably going to play Texas. So I think that out of the top 4 seeds to lose the first game, I just looked at matchup wise, and I respect Arizona State, but
yeah,
I think Texas is better. And I think Texas wins that game. So just based upon that, I say Texas on that. But I will say, I think, we covered it well. I think for the first year, they did fine. They got 12 really good teams. I don't really think that there's, like Jeff said, there wasn't a ton of chatter of they screwed this team or they screwed this team or this should have got in this. I feel like for the first year, they did a pretty good job. I mean, I don't know. That's just the way I just feel like, Miami, sorry, you didn't beat anyone. And you lost. You had 2 bad losses. And you didn't play in your, no, sorry.
Yeah.
And Bama, we already talked about it at length. So for the first year, I think they did a pretty good job. But any last thoughts before we head to the NFL?
No thoughts whatsoever. Just, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next weekend in the first round and who's going to be that team that gets the advance to the next round, and see with the thoughts. And I'm glad that we'll go into more detail about it, of how effective this 12-team playoff is going to work. And should they expand it, talks of 18, which I hope they do not do that.
Did you say 18?
18.
Oof.
Yeah, don't do that.
Can we have a couple years of 12 first? Can we have a couple?
That part.
Can we have
that part? I hope they don't expand it like that.
You don't even know if 12 works or doesn't work because you haven't even done it yet.
Because next time we know also we're gonna have a 30-team playoff, and then it defeats the purpose.
And the thing too, and the other part is too, yes, the whole Bama getting in with money and all this and that, and it's let's be completely honest. The NCAA, even though they're losing quote unquote control, you think they're hurting for money? Absolutely not.
No.
You think people are not going to watch these games because Bama's not in it? These ratings are going to be insane. Bama or not, these ratings are going to be nuts. These leagues, these NCAA, the commissioner, the leagues,
right.
Everyone's going to be making boatloads of money. So the fact that Bama is not in it, honestly, probably doesn't impact the money really at all.
That part,
to be honest, because there isn't a shortage of money. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, let's a lot of good talk in college football. There'll be more for sure. We'll head to the NFL and we'll see. We can we'll go with this first. I'd like to start this one off as far as the most shocking thing in the NFL in Week 14. I'll be pretty simple. I know they lost the game, but the Carolina Panthers in Philly had a lead 16-14 going into the fourth quarter.
It's back-to-back chokes for the Carolina Panthers.
That's pretty shocking. The fact that they had a lead in the fourth quarter against the Eagles, and I know that was a classic trap game, clearly, because the Eagles looking forward to, the Steelers this weekend, but still, the talent difference between those two teams, it's significant. It's very, very significant. And frankly, if Xavier Legette, who's had a really good rookie season, he doesn't drop that ball, they may have won.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying may because Hurts would have had 50 seconds, and I think that they would have went down the field and maybe won the game with the field goal. But Carolina might have pulled that off if that guy had caught that for that touchdown. And then like Jeff said, all this chatter from the Eagles locker room and the Eagles players, you won 9 games in a row. Why are you guys upset? You won 9 games in a row. What's the big deal? It kind of the way that AJ Brown was talking reminded me directly of the year Dak's rookie year when Dez Bryant the media was grabbing it, wanted him to react every single week. They kept on saying, Dez, you're not getting targets, or Dez, you only had 1 catch, da-da-da-da. The whole season, he literally was like, I don't care, we won.
Right.
Like the whole season, the media was jabbing him, trying to get him to overreact about not getting targets and catches and this and that. He was very consistent the whole season. We are winning games.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Brown doesn't really seem to have that same mentality.
So, whatever's going on between him and Jalen Hurts, they need to figure it out as teammates if they want to keep the momentum going, because they are important, intricate parts of this team. Whatever is going on, they have to figure it out. Brandon Graham, it was not his place to talk about it on the podcast. It's between two grown men for them to solve their issues. And Brandon Graham did issue an apology about being all in grown men's business. So whatever they got going on, they got going on. I would say the two shocking things on 14 is that, God dang it, we just cannot clinch the NFC because the Minnesota Vikings rather just keep on winning. Mm-hmm. And you would think that Kirk Cousins want to go in there and just challenge it against his former team. And it looked decent in about almost 2.5 quarters until just careless mistakes. The defense fell apart. His throwing game fell apart. And it was just like, you know what? I think Atlanta Falcons fans are just frustrated, and enough is enough. And they want to see what Michael Penix Jr. and the reason why he got drafted number 8 and what he can do. It hasn't been answered yet if they should bench him. And I mean, in my personal opinion, let's see what he can do. You know, I mean, you threw a boatload of money at Kirk Cousins. He's going to be the biggest thief ever of, getting the bag and not producing the results. Why not, take a chance on Michael Penix Jr.? It could be, the next Tom Brady. We saw that with Drew Bledsoe when he got hurt, and then who came in his relief. Tom Brady, the rest is history. I would say the second thing that's the biggest thing to take away is the Kansas City Rabbitfoots. I have never seen a team so doggone lucky in all my life. Like, doink for the division. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, how they're probably going to lose. And that ball sailed left, hit the upright, and went in with 1 second left.
Yeah.
This team is just so lucky. And it's not just, I look back, and you can say this too, Ben. I look at some of the games that they played, especially the one comes to my mind is against the Panthers, where the Panthers, just in devastating fashion, last minute kick, and then they had an opportunity to win, and they throw an interception. I'm just like, Kansas City Chiefs is just a lucky 12-1.
But the thing is, like, is it possible, and I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate, is it possible that they are the opposite of, like, playing down to the competition? They are, like, doing that, but also, like, at the same time, like, we can do that and still win. And when we need, and it's a dangerous game to play because they're playing the game each week this way. They just keep on believing they can turn it on when they need to. And so far they have, but it's kind of like that's a little bit dangerous. But it's almost like, to me, it's like they're just coasting to the playoffs. And it's like, right now they're in position to get a 1 seed, but they're like, to me, they're like, we had home field advantage before we went to the Super Bowl. Last year we had to play road playoff games. People said we couldn't do it. We did it. So to me, in my mind, it's almost like they just want to, if you ask them, here, skip to the playoffs and you're the 3 seed. Okay, fine. Like, fine. We're good with that.
Right.
It just feels like they're just coasting along because they know their legacies and what happens to them and their season and all that is in the playoffs. And it kind of just seems like, of course, they want to win. Of course, they want to get the 1 seed. But I think maybe in a way what happened last year was, in a way, a little bit of a negative or less motivating to get the 1 seed, even though they're in position, because they're like, well, we went to Buffalo and then we went to Baltimore and we won both of those games. So maybe we don't need home field.
Right.
And maybe they're just kind of skating along and then they're like, holy crap, we're winning these games. We're pulling these out. We're winning these games. We might actually get the win.
I mean, that's a horrible way to lose when you think you got this somewhat locked up, and then that doggone kick looks like it's going to sail left. And it's like,
here's the other problem, though. Herbert, get a touchdown.
That part.
Get a touchdown. Force Kansas City to get a touchdown. Because at the end of the day, it's almost, there's these elite Hall of Fame quarterbacks, which Mahomes will be. But they're these elite quarterbacks. If they need a field goal to win, they're getting a field goal.
Yeah.
Like, it's like this. It's like automatic, basically.
Pretty much.
And it's very, very rare that quarterback, insert name, Brady, Montana, Steve Young, even Rodgers, when obviously not this version of Rodgers, but, Peyton Manning, like, if forget needing a field goal to tie field goal to win. So to me, if you give Mahomes a chance to win with a field goal, gonna, like, a field goal doesn't even tie it, he can win with a field goal, he's gonna do it.
Yep.
Like he's gonna do it. And I mean, it's proven that.
Keep leaving that door open. You think you've shut it, but then you can't convert on third down. You can't make the plays. You throw the ball sailing over their head. You can't get the team into field goal position to set you up for some points when you definitely need that 6, but you have to settle for 3. You're leaving that door ajar and giving Patrick Mahomes plenty of time to do what he does and do
Buffalo did him a nice favor.
Yeah.
Losing that game to, the Rams, which the Rams, obviously, I mean, who knows what they could do if they make the playoffs. But even though their defense is a lot better than what they played on Sunday, their defense is really young, and clearly that's the weakness of the team. So I don't think that they can beat, Eagles and Lions back-to-back weeks. Or like, even if they were to get in, like, I know they're a dangerous team, and Dan Orlovsky is saying that they could win the Super Bowl, they could make the Super Bowl. They're not beating those juggernauts in the NFC back-to-back weeks. They might beat one of them, but they ain't beating the Eagles and Lions back-to-back.
Yeah.
It's not happening. There's no way. It's just not happening. But the Bills, if you wanted the 1 seed, you kind of needed to keep winning. And now, even though you have the head-to-head, like, the Chiefs' schedule is, not that difficult. And frankly, now you gave them a game. So the Chiefs can lose a second game and still get the 1 seed. So they don't have pressure to win out now because they don't need to. So the Bills gave them a nice gift, and I think that they took advantage of it. So
100%. I agree with you 100%.
But I will say this: I want to get to this. Biggest statement to me was the Lions, because, like, everyone is talking about, and people are saying, all these injuries and all this and that, and it's like people are picking the Eagles to get the 1 seed, and it's like, are you not watching? The Lions' offense is ridiculous, and guess what? As of now, those guys are healthy.
Yeah,
and those guys are really, really hard to stop. And if their defense can just get stops here and, periodic stops or get turnovers, then the offense can take care of itself. And I feel like people for weeks have been trying to come up with reasons why the Eagles were better than the Lions. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not. Stop trying to come up with those reasons. Like the Lions, okay, the Lions are hurt defensively. Okay, well, they're still winning. They're still winning.
The beginning of the season, Coach Campbell said next man up. And that's exactly what's happening.
I was looking at it. I was looking at the schedule, and I'm like, the Lions are probably going to get the 1 seed. The schedule is not that difficult. Yes, they have to play Buffalo, who's going to be pissed off and, just came off of that, bad loss. But they win that game. Okay, you got to go to Chicago, so it's an outdoor game. Fine, whatever. The 49ers, I mean, who knows who's going to be healthy and who's going to be in that game. And clearly the Lions will have motivation to win for 2 reasons: to keep the 1 seed and to get back from last year. And then you got the Vikings at home, which could be for the division, could be for the 1 seed. But who knows if the Vikings lose one more game before then. I just think that the Lions, I don't think they're going to win out, and I don't think necessarily they should want to. I don't really think you want to finish like 16-1. That's like,
because that's a massive amount of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure.
But here's the thing, Ben, going into Sunday when they face the Bills, notice the amount of points their defense gave up.
The Bills, yeah.
42 points. You lost by 2. That lets me know something. People should be focusing on what the Lions defense looks like in holes and Swiss cheese. You need to focus on also the Bills defense, because that amount of points that you gave up against a team that's, the past several weeks has started to figure it out. It's absolutely incredible. I would say this. I agree with you on the Lions point, being a Lions fan, but I want a different route. I say the Miami Dolphins are starting to just turn things around. And I looked at their losses and the struggles that they had when Tua was out for those several weeks. You had them getting destroyed by the Bills, and then 2 weeks later they had that really weird loss against the Titans, and then they lost to the Colts, and then they lost to the Cardinals, and then again the Bills go and sweep them, and that was a really close game, and that was when Tua was starting to come back. And then you look at the last several weeks that they starting to cook against a struggling Raiders team at home, against a struggling Patriots team at home. They did have some problems in the cold weather against the Packers, which proves that, warm, sunny teams and in warm states have a hard time. I mean, there was 20-something degrees, and, pretty much Jordan Love and that whole entire team just lit it up. And then what do? They go and they take it to overtime and just shut all the mouths of everybody that's a New York Jets fan. And so now they have, looking at the Texans on the road, and then they're back at home against the Niners, then on the road against the Browns, and then they go and see if they can handle the cold weather at the Jets. This is a team that slowly but surely, and they do have a tough back end of the schedule. They have the momentum swing back on their side now and believe that they can make a run. It makes some noise going into next week in Houston and beyond. If they can get at least, I would say, 3 out of 4 of these wins, Texans, Dolphins, Browns, they can pretty much, they would obviously need some help along the way there, but they could get a wild card. We could see them in a hunt for that. But Tua's healthy. He's utilizing his weapons of Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane and utilizing them. And this is the team that we are starting to see with Mike McDaniel at the helm. That, like I said, if they could get these next 3 games, which is going to be very tough for them, you'll probably see the Dolphins be in the postseason.
It's definitely possible. It's also possible they could run the table. I mean, the Texans, they're coming out of their bye, but I mean, they aren't what everyone thought they were going to be.
Well, we'll see if that bye helped them out, and see, these next 4 weeks, Ben, is going to be interesting on these teams that is trying to get a spot in the postseason and what they're going to do, especially the ones that are on the verge of either one game costing them or one game helping them and somebody else falling in their division.
Yeah, you know what? Right before we go, I think we should go. Which is possible. I mean, the Chiefs pretty much have the 1 seed, pretty much.
I don't see any other team challenging them. I don't.
So the Chiefs are the Bills. You did them a nice favor by losing to the Rams, and you'll do an even nicer favor if you lose again to the Lions. The Chiefs are pretty much be the 1 seed, because I also looked at their schedule. It's not. I mean, they're beating bad teams barely, but still they're winning. So. Fun last topic. Let's end with a bang here. These are all 5 teams who either currently have head coach openings or very likely will have head coach openings. We're rating them best job to take versus worst job. The 5 teams are Bears, Jaguars, Jets, Raiders, and Giants. So actually, it's funny I said it in that order. That is my order.
It's mine too. Twinning.
Bears. So Bears, Jaguars, Jets, Raiders, Giants is 5.
Yeah.
Because the Bears, they have talent, right? I mean, you have a quarterback, you have Swift, you have those receivers. Jaguars, same thing. Even though he's overpaid at the moment, you have a franchise quarterback. That's desirable, and it's warm weather, Jacksonville. The Jets, I put 3 because they have some young talent to me. They have Breece Hall, they have Sauce Gardner, they have Garrett Wilson. You got something to work with there. The Raiders, okay, the Raiders and the Giants, right? They both don't have quarterbacks, right? So then it's like, okay, well, what else do you have? And they both have really, really good rookie skill players, and Bowers and Neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but then like the Raiders have one of the best defensive players in the entire league, Crosby.
Max Crosby. Mm-hmm.
So that's something, a little feather in the cap a little bit. And I just think the Giants are so dysfunctional.
A mess.
They're
They're a mess.
dysfunctional. Like their owner, if they won those 2 Super Bowls with Eli Manning, other than that, over the last 20 years, they're one of the worst franchises in the entire league.
It's proving right now at this point, Ben, that Daniel Jones was not the issue by himself.
No, absolutely not. And I chose the Raiders at 4, partially like what we talked about. And even though they're in Patrick Mahomes' division, I understand that. But the Giants, I mean, the Eagles, they ain't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas is probably going to be better next year, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And Washington has a great rookie quarterback and had a very bad salary cap issue to deal with, and a brand new head coach. They're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think that the West is that much harder than, like, the NFC East is maybe harder than the AFC West. And I just, like, the Giants, man, that's not somewhere I would want to go.
Right. Part of me, in a way, and I'll end with this, part of me in a way wanted Cooper Rush to be successful, because I wanted him, to continue to see if he could prove to be a starter. And if he can prove to be a starter, then he's going to have teams that are going to be interested in his starting services, i.e. the Raiders, possibly, to go there. So yesterday's game, unfortunately, did not go the way that it should have for the Cowboys, with, unfortunately, touching a ball that should have just been bounced, and then the Cowboys would have had it. I believe that they would have won that, but, err is human.
With Rush, though, he's kind of like, I'm trying to think of a white quarterback just to play the game that made a lot of money, that was a backup his whole career, Chase Daniel.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush comes off as that, but better, right? He's better. I mean, he's been much better when he started than Chase Daniels ever was. Who's a white backup quarterback that made a lot of money? Chase Daniel went to mind.
Oh, yeah.
Cooper Rush has looked much better in the games that he started than Daniel, but I just think if he was going to be a starter, he would be at this point.
Yeah.
Because people saw what he did when Dak was injured 2 years ago,
and
nobody tried to sign him to have a QB competition that offseason.
Right.
So I think he's a good dude. I think he's a really good backup, but I think that's his ceiling.
Yeah, this is about it.
But that's fine. I mean, that's fine. You can make a lot of money. You can have a good life, being a backup quarterback in the NFL, and a good one at that. I mean, who's to say if he is a free agent, which I don't know, but if he is, why wouldn't he choose to go to a pretty good team, even with an established quarterback? But hey, I can go into, for example, the Chiefs or the Bills. Like, if the guy gets hurt, you think they wouldn't sign up for him to be the backup quarterback on those teams?
Exactly.
So I think he will choose where to go. I think he knows, as much as he loves to start and believes in himself to be a starter, I think he also knows the NFL, frankly, doesn't believe you're a starting quarterback. So
when you got all this talent that's coming out there, and these quarterbacks are hopefully they're looking at the ones that are going to be coming up, observing them in their bowl games, observing them in the Senior Bowl, observing them in the East-West Shriner Bowl, the up-and-coming talent that's going to be happening. And then you got the combine that's going to come real quick, as well as the draft. That these quarterbacks, I believe wholeheartedly, they're going to be looking at, not only they are great passers in the pocket, but they're going to be looking for someone who's mobile, and someone who's football knowledge, and someone who makes great decisions quickly and not second guess when it comes to it. Because
I know we got to run. And I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I definitely just interrupted you, so I'm sorry. But should the Falcons bench Cousins? My answer to that was, especially, they're playing the Raiders on Monday Night Football. The Raiders are 2-11. If first half against the Raiders, you put Penix in that game in my mind.
I agree with that. I was. I mean, again, you would think you would go into where you used to be at, and the one team that you took to one postseason game and go in there and make a statement, and you just failed to do so in the second half and just completely derailed. I agree with you on that. If it just does not go their way,
0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions the last 4 games,
and got all that money.
If you don't have a touchdown pass, I don't even care about a turnover. If you don't have like a touchdown pass against the Raiders, we got problems.
Mm-hmm.
We got,
and when you got fans that want to see you get benched and go to Michael Penix Jr., I mean, I agree with you. We just got to see what they got to do.
Their season is kind of tumbling backwards, where it's like, you know what? The argument was, well, we're going to win the division. We don't want to put a rookie QB in there. Well, what if now you're not going to win the division? Now might be a good time to put in the rookie quarterback.
Right.
So, yeah, I think Cousins, to be honest, it definitely needs to have a good game on Monday night to keep that job, in my opinion.
Raiders are trying to figure it out on QB. Their QBs are all banged up. It's going to be a embarrassing loss if they go into Raiders territory and don't come out with a W.
Especially,
it's going to be a lot of questions, and it's not just going to be Kirk Cousins.
Exactly. On Monday Night Football against a 2-11 team, this is your get right game.
Or it's going to end up being any given Monday.
If you got a cupcake of a game that's a get right game, you take advantage of it, just like Washington did before the bye.
Mm-hmm.
They got the Titans after 2 straight losses, and they absolutely demolished them.
Yep.
When you got a get right game, you got to take advantage of it.
Better get right. Or you're going to be get gone.
You got a get right game against the freaking Raiders, who are playing for the number 1 overall pick. You win that game, and if you're Cousins, you look damn good in winning that game.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be interesting to see. We might be having a different conversation on Tuesday.
Yep.
But anyways, I know you got to run. This was a pleasure. I'm always glad when you can join us, the queen of DTS. And
thank you everybody for watching.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. And the next couple shows and end out 2024 strong.
Let's go.
See you, Marissa. Marisa.
You're good.